This is KONR-LP Anchorage, Out North Radio 106.1 FM, and you're listening to the Mountain View Post Radio Hour. I'm Kirsten Swan, and this is the radio show all about Mountain View. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. Here in the studio with us this morning, we have Anchorage Assemblyman Chris Constant, who represents the neighborhood, as well as Fairview, Downtown, and Government Hill. Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
I know we have a lot to talk about this morning, some recent kind of business and assembly-related issues in the neighborhood relating to Brown Jug, and also the election that I ran into last night at the ballot box bash in Mountain View.
What a fun event.
That was pretty neat. It was, I think, organized by the Alaska Center and the Anchorage Community Land Trust in Mountain View,
The Parks
Covenant
Foundation. Yep, a whole bunch of people.
Right, to encourage participation in this vote-by-mail election. And
yeah, you know, there was actually a group with Leadership Anchorage, which I'm going to at 9:30, to activate, work hard on getting people in our neighborhoods, especially Mountain View and Fairview, to vote. You know, we have a historic low level of voter participation. You know, about 7%. Other neighborhoods get a much better percentage. And so the whole purpose of those two events, Fairview and Mountain View, was to spark more participation, get the word out there deeper. They actually did a couple of canvases to all the voters in the neighborhood.
right, I think a few weekends ago they were knocking on doors in Mountain View.
Exactly. And so getting people kind of up to speed about how the election's going to work. Everybody out there should know by now, hopefully, that we're doing vote by mail. It's a whole new system. And, yeah.
And I know we have that secure ballot box at Clark Middle School, and
Yep.
there are a lot of issues on this year's ballot, and a few of them of particular interest to us in Mountain View. I know you were at a community council meeting a few weeks ago where there were some questions, in particular about Proposition 10, which deals with the proposed sale of municipal light and power, potentially to Chugach Electric Association.
Yep.
And some of the questions we've been hearing from neighbors in Mountain View, because we fall, some other areas within municipal light and power's service area. I think some of the questions, if I'm recalling from the community council meeting, were to the effect of, well, is this a monopoly? Why would we want to become part of this bigger organization that would control all of our fates? Questions of that nature. And then also some questions of why doesn't the city earn money from municipal light and power, and why would they want to give that away?
Yep.
I'm sure you've been hearing a lot of questions from
I have.
constituents.
You know, and the first thing I always say in these conversations is that I want you to recognize my bias. I have now voted 3 times to say yes to this deal. First time asking the utility to work together with the city and figure out if it's a good deal. Second was to authorize putting the question on the ballot. And the third yes was when I submitted my ballot into the ballot box. And so that's just recognize that I am a full supporter of this deal, so you can kind of make sure you filter anything I say through the perspective of a supporter.
Right, and
So
I know there have been plenty of opposing opinions put out into the public sphere in recent weeks too.
Yeah, and any opposition I have heard has just been really based on some kind of irrational elements. The two that are most irrational, one is, well, Mark Begich supports it, so I can't support it. That's like a classic Republican rallying cry. We have a nonpartisan election, our city's nonpartisan, and because one person supports it or not doesn't mean it's a bad deal or a good deal. It's just you have to look at the facts, and in fact it's ironic, Amy Dembowski supports it and Mark Begich supports it, so that puts those folks into an interesting conundrum. And the question of the monopoly, it's hard for people to understand this, but utilities are regulated because traditionally they are monopolies. You do not have a choice today to go to provider A or provider B. You just have provider A, so you are currently operating under a monopoly. If the voters authorize this sale, nothing changes in that effect. You will still have one regulated utility. And so that's kind of a straw man people put out there to beat on. And I understand people's concerns about that, but that's why we have the Regulatory Commission of Alaska that overrules every one of these transactions and all of the rate changes for any of these utilities, because they do already operate with a monopoly. So that's something. And the other concerns that people have brought up are, what about our rates? We have really good rates right now, and we've made some smart investments as MLNP members, or customers, because you're not members of MLNP. And that is a really important perspective. And the transaction as it's presented so far, and that I'll continue to fight for if the voters say yes, is that the ratepayers in our neighborhood, District 1 is all MLNP, will continue to see the benefit of those smart investments that we've made and the returns on investment from Power Plant 2A, from the Beluga Field, from the things that actually are working to bring our prices down. So we don't actually lose that in the transaction. If the deal is closed a year from now, the voters say yes now, then we will see those benefits for the next 20 to 30 years.
And this, of course, the election is kind of just one piece in the puzzle. I understand would be there would be many more steps in this process of the sale if...
Absolutely. So, AEDC, when they first brought the question forward to consider this, because it's really a smart plan for Anchorage's downtown to have a unified provider. There are a lot of efficiencies that come from the deal.
I'd like to jump in with a quick disclaimer at first. AEDC is actually my day job. I am a communications coordinator there. So
yep, and we didn't plan it that way.
Right.
So AEDC, when their board finally came to the question of do they support Proposition 10, they made the decision to support Proposition 10 with the clear statement that they are supportive of Proposition 10, which is to ask the voters to support the ballot initiative. They reserve the right to judgment on the transaction as it proceeds forward. I think that should give the public some confidence that when we say your vote yes doesn't mean this is a done deal, that there are plenty of steps along the way, that we have evidence to that effect. You have major players in the question saying, look, we support this deal and we want to see what the rest is. What effectively happens here is that if the voters say yes, the process earnestly begins. Right? Then we go into a really, bare knuckle negotiation between all the parties. Do the due diligence to make sure all of the offers are genuine, that the terms are clear, that we have an enforceable contract, and that everything is proper. So at that point, then we have a deal. And then we get to vote on it, and then Chugach Electric also gets to vote on it.
So it would ultimately come up before you in the assembly again.
It would, so I would have a fourth shot at the apple. But along the way, I would be sitting in on the Utilities Committee and working hard to make sure that that deal is a good deal for the ratepayers, good deal for the taxpayers, good deal for renters in Anchorage. And, there's a weird thing about this deal that people have a hard time wrapping their mind around. It is the best deal that we received if you look at all of the offers that were published in the ADN's comparison, that came in. It is the best cash deal. But the number one value isn't the cash, it's the unification of Anchorage into a single utility instead of having two with two administrations and two customer service portals and two of everything. We don't need that. And so unifying them into one is really the core value of this sale. And some people say, well, no, we should have an open bid on the open market. We don't want a capital firm out of New York setting up an LLC, draining out all of the assets of this utility, and then filing bankruptcy and leaving us holding the bag. That is not at all of interest to those of us who sit on the body, and hopefully not to the people of Anchorage. And so this deal set forth a path to unify Anchorage's power provision, make it more efficient. You'll make better decisions, and it's weird, Anchorage citizens would find themselves, and this is very unusual, on both sides of the deal. They would be the seller of the utility through the city and the buyer of the utility because they would become the ratepayer. Every single person would become a member of the cooperative and have a vote. And so there's a tension between getting the best amount of money you can get for the deal, the most, and getting the best deal you can, because if you buy it too expensively, rates will go up. If you buy it too low, the people get screwed. And so it's an interesting balance that we have here, and I think that the deal as struck is really right on point. Now, I got a text just now from a Fairview person asking what happens to the campus, because people are afraid that becomes a new...
I've seen some discussion about that possibly would be transferred and be used for other purposes.
Right, and the best thing that can be said at this time is that it will be years before those decisions are made, and the Fairview folks, and I understand this, want to see some kind of a term in the transaction that it won't become used for homeless services. And I just don't think that is level of detail that this transaction is going to get to, and I don't think that it would be fair to lay that on there, but I think there are other uses. I was at a meeting yesterday where we were discussing the possibility of part of the municipal bus barns going in there. right? Because that whole transaction over there is going to move the bus barns. There are some functional problems of that happening down on the MLB campus because the distance from where kids are generally, but there are creative conversations going on. So.
Well, Chris, thank you very much for some of your kind of perspective on that whole Prop 10 discussion. I know voters, they can, to read the whole all of the ballot language, they can go to muni.org/elections. Polls, for calling them that, this year are open through April 3rd. People can return their ballots by mail or also drop them at one of the secure drop-box locations around town, or also vote in person at the accessible vote centers around Anchorage. I know there's several of them, including the library and City Hall.
The library is actually open this weekend.
Awesome.
Yeah, so you can actually drop your vote or get a ballot at the library this weekend, the first of the accessible vote centers, and the rest of them open on Monday.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Yep.
Thank you.
And that's pretty exciting. And just as an update on that, I got an email that said we've got over 20,000 ballots returned now as of last night.
Wow.
So we're well over a third of the ballots cast in the last mayoral election already received. And they're coming in about 3,000 a day. And I imagine that will pick up as we get closer to the deadline.
It'll be exciting to see the results and see how it affects turnout because, like you said, I know we have pretty low numbers in our neighborhood traditionally for municipal elections.
Yep, and hopefully all these efforts are getting people to turn their ballots in. Turn your ballots in.
Well, since we have you here for just a few more minutes, I wanted to move on to the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, which is the issue of Brown Jug and what they're doing with their second store, both their stores actually,
Right.
in the neighborhood and their operations. So a little background first, basically, since I moved into the neighborhood and as long as I've been going to the community council meetings, which has only been about 4 years now, this has been an issue for the community council, and members of the community council have been discussing concerns related to alcohol in the neighborhood and loitering and chronic public inebriation and people hanging out in front of, say, the library or the bank and drinking and that type of thing. And recently there was some movement on that front, and Brown Jug and our community council, it seems, signed a memorandum of understanding with some conditions relating to operating the stores in the neighborhood. And then recently at a Anchorage Assembly meeting, the Assembly also took some action. Can you tell us kind of what happened there?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really interesting night the other night. We had both parties, the community council and the Brown Jug, come together and propose to us a set of conditions that they can all agree on to limit a certain set of products, to limit a certain time of sale, to label each package or each bottle that comes out of the store with the purchase place, location of purchase, and then to maintain this memorandum of understanding. And the Assembly worked hard to get those conditions into a proposal to the Alcohol Control Board, and we have forwarded those concerns, that resolution and the MOU, off to the AMCO board. It's an interesting process to see. A lot of people don't understand that this actually really began in earnest with the Fairview Community Council and the closure of Spirits of Alaska.
Right, and that was a few years ago now?
2014.
Okay.
And the process that was used to do that was really, really in-depth. It involved a ton of public meetings and record keeping, and created an MOU that said, we will behave this way from the liquor store side and from the community, we will behave this way. And all the parties agreed. There were 2 liquor stores that agreed to their own separate MOUs. And what ended up happening is one of the stores followed through and did everything that was required in the MOU and has continued to. They continue to operate. And one of the other stores didn't, and they are no longer in business. And it was quite a process. So we then implemented that process into the marijuana licensing, which was the neighborhood responsibility planning process.
Right.
Now we've moved it back with the Brown Jug Mountain View scenario. And so the major commitment that the Brown Jug has made is that they will close the store across the street from Clark.
So that's the one right there on Bragah next to
Bragah.
Red Apple, right
Yep.
across from the middle school, right?
And so that's a huge, huge commitment that they've made, and a real show of kind of good business sense.
I know I spoke with Erica Wilburn, who I believe is the Alaska manager of operational excellence for Brown Jug at the most recent community council meeting, and she was speaking to that effect and saying that they are interested in doing what is best for the neighborhood. And so, like you mentioned, this is the first time that it's really, it doesn't often
It's rare.
Yeah, this seems like an interesting development, and like you said, it happened in Fairview, and now it's happening in Mountain View.
We're building on a process. Well, and of course, we talked earlier that this isn't a done deal until the Alcohol Control Board makes their final determination on putting these conditions on the license, right? And their standards it cannot be arbitrary, capricious, or unreasonable. It depends on which section of the code you read. Or is probably the standard, or maybe and is the standard on the letter that I saw. And so the difference is it can't be one of those, or it can't be all three of those together, which legally speaking, so there's a big difference there.
Okay.
And so, but we're waiting now. I heard a report that the alcohol control staff contacted the community council and asked them to waive their 21-day waiting period. And if that's the case, then it might be on the April 3rd board discussion in Nome for the Alcohol Control Board. And then once that's done, we'll know if the conditions are set.
Okay, so we definitely have some following up to do with that story, but there have been some big developments in recent weeks, and I know to everyone in the neighborhood, I heard a lot of discussion about it at the ballot box bash last night. And
yeah, it's going to be a big change, especially when they close that liquor store.
Well, Chris, I know you have to run to your next meeting, but thank you so much for joining us
Boy, it's
this
a pleasure to be here. Right on time.
Perfect.
You're like a train in Italy.
I try and hit the mark. Well,
right.
let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Mountain View Post Radio Hour. My name is Kate.
My name is Kirsten Swan. I'm your co-host. Thank you for joining us today. Kate, I'm glad we have you in the studio again this morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
And so this is the radio show all about Mountain View and the things that happen in the neighborhood. And lately it's been getting warmer out, and we've been seeing a lot more people out on the street because the days are so much longer, and you see like kids playing basketball. And I know, Kate, you especially wanted to talk about art in the neighborhood because we have so many pieces around the neighborhood, and you know when you're out, you're walking, it's a beautiful spring day, and you really start to notice like we have a lot of sculptures and statues and murals and things like that.
Yes, so when I was wondering what I should talk about, because I always want to have a backup, and so I looked up art pieces, and I looked it up, Art Pieces Mountain View, aka Anchorage. I found a land trust page that has all of the names and pictures of every single art piece in Mountain View. I didn't write down on here any of the ones in schools just because you might not be able to see them.
Right, those aren't as accessible to just members of the general public, and your list would probably be pretty long if we included all the art pieces in schools.
Yeah.
And so right now, let's see, how many do you have?
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Nice, that's a lot of them, and they're pretty accessible, right? I would say you could just start at one side of the neighborhood and start walking and kind of hit all of them on a nice little walk through the neighborhood if you wanted to do your own do-it-yourself Mountain View art walk.
Yeah.
So what side of the neighborhood? Tell us where we start for this hypothetical art walk.
I'm gonna start by it's kind of all around Mountain View, but where I recognize it is by the Special Olympics. The little banners that say I Heart Mountain View and stuff like that. That was one of them.
Nice, okay. And so those are, I believe that might have been a land trust project as well.
I think so.
Putting those, and they were sponsored by local businesses, and so when you're driving into the neighborhood, you can see kind of the names of businesses that on the banners, and then they're a nice little kind of driving in. I agree, I like them too. It's kind of like flags on Main Street type thing. Okay, so what's next on your list?
When you go into Mountain View, there's this huge building that has a preschool in it, and the garden. The art, the little,
Is that the Success by 6 building with Fred and the childhood services there?
And it's like a giant, walk-through park, and it has little, it has 2D people in it. Yeah,
yeah, kind of like the flat.
They're really interesting to look at because they're all doing something different.
Yeah, those are really neat, and I know they have some cool events there. I think in the summer they have a book fair.
I think they have something on Kids Day.
Really?
Yeah, because when the farmers market does it too, and so you see people walking from the farmers market to over there for Kids Day, and So
there's a nice little, because it's really only a block away from the farmers market lot. So if you're say if you visit the Mountain View Farmers Market in the summer and you want to go on a little field trip, you can just walk across the street down there to the Success by 6 building and see this, this
I actually went to
statues.
preschool over there.
Really?
Yeah.
Small world. So, okay, so the next thing on your list, we have the
I have the car wash mural.
the car wash mural. That's a really
Yeah.
nice one.
It's really pretty because I remember when it wasn't, like, when they redid it,
Mm-hmm.
the old one, it looked really nice, but this one looks nicer.
So was it a different mural before? Do you mean they repainted the same mural and freshened it up and made it look nicer?
From what I remember, yeah.
Okay, was that pretty recent?
Not
Or a
really.
while
It's
ago.
It was a while ago, but it looks really nice.
It does look really nice. I love driving by the car wash every day on the way to work. I always
Yeah.
stop at that light and it's
It's
that
just
nice,
so pretty.
familiar. Mm-hmm. It's so recognizable too.
Another thing I have is, everybody knows this one. It's the Faces in Mountain View.
The Faces of Mountain View, yes, and so that is what would you call it? A statue? It's not really it's not really a statue. It's more, but it's
An
it's
art piece.
It is an art piece, and there are 52 faces in it.
And if you go by it, you might know people on it. I know one of them's Mr. Dave.
One of them is Mr. Dave, yes. If you really have to spend some time standing in front of it to recognize people because
Yeah.
their faces have been transformed into, let's see, okay, I have some information about it here. It was done actually by an artist named Cassie Pollock, and the piece is called 52 Faces of Mountain View. It's made out of steel, fiberglass, and LEDs. This is according to her website.
That's why, because when it's really dark, they glow.
Right, so they are connected actually to the street lamps, and so when the street lamps turn on at night, that's what turns the sculpture on.
That's cool.
And it says here that the 52 people who are cast in the 52 Faces of Mountain View sculpture, their ages 50 to 80. Their faces on the art piece are fiberglass lamps, and they all lived in Mountain View. So
Yeah.
you'll probably recognize some people from around the neighborhood if you go look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also really close to that's right across the street from the
Yeah.
Success by 6 and the art park there, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of across the street from the car wash.
All these things are right, and you can just go stand on one street corner and see like
Yeah.
multiple pieces of art.
Okay, so one of the things else that I forgot over there
Bless
is,
you.
is the little the people it kind of looks like they're wrapped
Right, and
by
so
McDonald's.
yes, not wrapped in McDonald's, but
Mm,
yeah,
but by
people,
McDonald's.
right? It's the kind of reddish statue. It is right there by McDonald's on Mountain View Drive, and I actually do have some information about the artists of this. Let's see, because I believe that one of the women who made that piece, her name is Indra, and you will actually meet her. I think. Let's see.
I want to meet everybody.
Okay, so it's called We've Come So Far, and it was created with Christina Barber. Sorry, I'm reading this from an Anchorage Daily News article. And Indra is actually on the board of directors for Out North Art House.
Oh,
Did you
that's
know?
really cool.
Right, so she's connected here to the radio station, and I believe she had a recent installation here at the studio. Some of her art was on display. And so
That's really cool.
she's very active in the community and a really established great artist. And
Yeah.
so that it says Indra Arriaga and Christina Barber created the sculpture. It's called We've Come So Far, and that's the one right there wrapped on the corner right next to McDonald's, and they made that in 2008, so it's about 10 years old now. Very nice. What's next on your list?
I call it the curly fry, but I hear it has another name.
I think it does have another name, but I have not found out what it is yet. So we have to, we're going to have to hunt down the name, find out what it's called.
You can look at the land trust.
Does it? Okay, I will look it up. But tell me more about
But
the
while
curly
that
fry.
happened, the
And
curly
why-
fry?
Yeah, why is it your favorite?
It reminds me of food.
It is right there by McDonald's. So, you start thinking about fries.
And then it'll make
boom,
you
there's your
hungry,
chance.
and then you go to McDonald's.
I can see why that would be a favorite.
Okay, while you look that up, let's talk about the museum mural. That's really pretty.
Let's talk about the museum mural, and it's very hard to miss because
It's so big, and it just makes a statement. The dinosaur on it. Yeah.
And so that was done by an Anchorage artist named James Havens.
I feel like there was an event where he came to the museum.
Yes.
People could go meet him.
I think it was about a month ago now, at the end of February. They had a reopening at the museum, from what I recall, and he has some new art in there. And so, side note, visit the Alaska Museum of Science and Nature. It's on North Bragaw in Mountain View. It's, like Kate said, it's impossible to miss. It has this beautiful full-size mural wrapping all around it. The building actually used to be a warehouse. I believe it was Midnight Sun Boats back in the day. So imagine a big boat warehouse building, but now it's been transformed into a natural history and science museum. There's a big dinosaur mural all around the outside. And I believe it's open on the weekends, maybe like It has some limited hours, but
Yeah.
you can check out its website.
And then right next to it is the credit union one, bike flower.
The bike flower.
It's so pretty.
And that's a kind of neat one. Describe to people who are listening what this bike
It
bike
kind
flower
of looks like a stem,
Uh-huh.
and then there's a middle, and then it looks like there's bikes that are the same color, just like kind of like the pedals.
So the kind of the wheels and the spokes and the parts of this bike
Yeah.
form the petals of this flower, and it's huge. It stands, I want to say that entire height of the Credit Union 1 building almost. Not that high, but it's a
Almost.
right. It's a pretty big project, and I think that was done by local artist Cindy Shake. And you were pretty close on the title actually. The technical name is Bicycle Bloom.
Ooh, that's
So-
even better.
All right, because it's an alliteration. And I think it was done through the 1% for Art program. So, little background on the Bicycle Bloom.
And then across the street from it is the Mountain View Library with the book ducks.
With the book ducks.
They're so pretty.
I almost forgot about those, 'cause I don't necessarily think of that when I think of neighborhood art, but you're right, that is a very cool kind of art thing. And are they ducks or are they geese?
I think they're geese.
A bird. You'll have to go and look at it and decide for yourself. Artistic license. But so they're made out of books, right? And they're hanging from the ceiling, and they're right there when you walk into the Mountain View Library.
So it's like the body of it, but then the wings of it are books.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are open.
And they're kind of flying in a flock there into the library, and that's another good one.
Yeah, I think that's all the ones I have here.
All the ones? Okay. Well, I have one more. Actually, I have two more to add to your list. This is good. I was worried. I had a much shorter list than you, and I thought for sure you were going to have everything on your list, and I would be out of luck. But this is good because we can combine our resources. So, continuing on, because if you're at the library, you're right there kind of at the corner of Bragaw and Mountain View Drive. If you keep walking, let's see, east down Mountain View Drive, you can see the whale song sculpture at the corner of Park and Mountain View Drive. Have you seen that yet?
I don't think
I think it's a bronze sculpture. It was made by Aurora Sidney Ando and Christina Dimitro a few years ago. And it's right there kind of by the brown jug. It's right across the street from West Berlin. Right across Mountain View Drive from West Berlin.
I think I have.
Yes, and so that was made. It was a big project, and I know they got funding from both Brown Jug and the Alaska Humanities Forum and the Anchorage Community Land Trust, and also private donors to put it together.
Yeah.
And there were some sessions at the Mountain View Boys and Girls Club where kids could come and paint rocks that were put around kind of the base of the statue. So that
I remembered another art piece.
Okay, there you
Okay.
go. Wait, what were you gonna say? What's the next art piece?
The art piece is the little parts. It's like a brick where you can see where the Mountain View Farmers Market is, where they had on Kids Day a bunch of rocks that you could paint, the
those
huge
kind
ones.
of the cement bollards
Yeah.
that are lining.
And then kids paint them, and then an art person, I can't remember her name, but she came and fixed it up and made it look a little better. And now there they stand.
And so when you're driving by, you see that nice little, it really
And I
brightens
remember
up the
which
drive.
part I painted. I painted the little pink girl. I don't know why I painted it pink.
It's a good color.
It was like a purple pink, so.
And then if you keep driving past those bollards, on the next block, there are some other bollards that are also painted. Now, do you know who did those?
No, I do not.
So, an artist named Linda Lyons, and she works at Magpie Artworks there, which is that studio
Yeah.
right on the corner, right across from your school. So we have a so many artists in the neighborhood.
And if you didn't know, I go to Clark, so.
Yes, you are our Clark connection, plugging us into the kids in Mountain View and what people are talking about and thinking about. And
Another art piece is also at the Mountain View Farmers Market in the back. The fence, it's the Mountain View Farmers Market fence, and then it has a sunflower on it. That's really pretty.
That is very pretty. And if you walk around behind the fence onto Richmond Avenue, right on the other side of the fence.
Also has other things painted on it.
Right, it's a double whammy. There's art on both sides. And you can't see the other side when you're driving down Mountain View Drive. You really have to like go into the neighborhood or be walking around to see it. But it's very cool. I think it has like a muskox and
I think so.
bear, kind of a wildlife scene.
Yeah.
And so one of my favorite art pieces is even further east in the neighborhood. If you keep heading down Mountain View Drive, if you go past the painted bollards and you go past the artwork, the bollards done by Linda and all the artists at Magpie Artworks and their studios, and you go past the bicycle bloom and keep on going and you go past the whale song, right there on the corner of, is it North Hoyt Street and Mountain View Drive, there's Price Buster's Pond, and then there's the Hispanic Cultural Center. And on the side of that center is the big hummingbird mural by Linda Lyons. Have you seen that?
I don't think so.
Oh, Kate. So if you only live a few blocks away, you have to see this. Maybe drive by on your way home. So it's right there on the corner of North Hoyt Street and Mountain View Drive, and it was done by Linda Lyons, who has her studio right here in Mountain View. And it's the whole side of the building is painted with these rufous hummingbirds, and they're around a flower, and it's just this beautiful, bright mural. And she did it, I want to say a few years ago. She completed it, and it just looks fantastic. And she actually has also just been selected. She received a fellowship from a national art association, and so I was hoping to be able to have her in the studio this morning to kind of talk about the mural and the fellowship, but we'll try to get her.
Artists are very busy people.
I know, they always have so many projects going on and so many things happening, and so we'll try again though, because she's always a nice person to talk to.
So if we go back to the museum, it's not there anymore, but it was there. It had like feet.
Wait.
It had like shoes and like animal feet and stuff like that on the fence. It used to be there, but it's not now.
On the museum?
Yeah, the museum fence. Like it goes like the museum buildings,
Uh-huh.
then the fence, and then credit union one.
And there used to be some kind of painting on the fence?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I've been here long enough to see it. That sounds neat though.
Yeah.
So my question for you though is, we have so much art in the neighborhood, and it's so beautiful, and very cool to be able to drive through and see all of these different things, even small things like the little free libraries we have in the neighborhood. Those are painted and look really nice. We have some dumpsters and like electrical boxes that have been painted by different groups.
Yeah.
Those look really nice too. If you could add anything to what we already have in the neighborhood, maybe an art, some kind of art piece, what do you think would look cool?
I think maybe, maybe like a picnic place where people painted the seats themselves. Like not like together.
That would be cool. That would be more and more painted stuff at the park maybe.
Yeah.
So something that I've been thinking about is, because how we have like graffiti around the neighborhood, not necessarily in places it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's like on, maybe the side of buildings or someone's fences or in the alley. And I think it would be cool if there was a place in the neighborhood maybe where people could go and do that. But it was supposed to be for that reason. And this is something, I know that we've talked about this before. A few members of the community council have brought it up in the past when we've been talking about improvements that could be made to the park and things that we could do. And one of my neighbors brought up the idea of, what about doing like some kind of graffiti wall or something at the park where artists could come and they could do stuff and paint it over.
Yeah.
And there's actually something in Austin, because I was looking it up to see if anyone else is doing anything similar, and there's something really cool in Austin. It's called the Hope Outdoor Gallery, and look at that. It's like 3 stories tall, and it's this outdoor space.
That's
And
really pretty.
isn't that cool? And so artists are able to come and they're able to paint all of these kind of blank walls. Well, obviously it's not blank anymore.
It's so pretty.
Yeah, and it's an outdoor gallery space now, and it looks like before it was probably just kind of an abandoned
Gray. walls.
But now it's someplace that people actually want to come and see art, and it's like specifically for that purpose. So I've been thinking about if, you know, we were to do something like that, is there any place in Mountain View that would work for that? Or, I don't know, what do you think?
There's some parks that have huge rocks. Maybe they could set up like just right there where the rocks are. They could just paint over the rocks. I don't know if that would work. I've never done graffiti.
I know, me neither, so we need to get someone in here who knows what they're talking about. So that could be cool though.
Yeah,
Or maybe some,
something like that.
exactly. Well, I know you have something else you want to talk about today. It's spread across the desk here in the studio. It looks pretty cool. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back to the Mountain View Post Radio Hour, we're going to talk
About
business.
this secret
Yeah.
surprise.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Mountain View Post Radio Hour. My name is Kirsten Swan. I'm your co-host today.
And I'm Kate Davis, and I'm your other co-host.
This is the radio show all about Mountain View and people who live there and things that happen in the neighborhood and issues and exciting events and
Yeah.
whatever else we want to talk about. So we've had a full show today. Earlier in the show we had our Assemblyman Chris Constant in to talk about a few election issues that are of particular interest to people in our district and his opinion on those issues, and then also some business moves in the neighborhood with Brown Jug announcing that it was going to be closing one of its stores and adding some restrictions. And then we were talking about, we switched gears.
Art pieces.
Yeah, talked about art in the neighborhood and a fun little walk people can do, kind of starting at the west end of Mountain View Drive there, down by the different restaurants and moving all the way east and seeing a few murals and sculptures and very cool stuff
really
like
pretty.
that. It is very pretty, especially now since it's spring officially.
Yeah.
And it's kind of
So
warm.
it's not all snow, but there is some snow.
Right, but the sidewalks are mostly clear. You can walk around, and summer is right around the corner. I can feel it in my bones. I'm so ready, which means pretty soon we're going to have the market starting back up, and that brings us to what you brought into the studio today, because as everyone knows, you are an entrepreneur, and you have multiple
Million
businesses.
and one talents.
A million and one talents. That's a good way of putting it. And you have the lemonade stand at the Mountain View Farmers Market in the summer, and you sell a lot of things besides lemonade. So tell us about what you brought in today to the studio.
Today I brought packs of earrings that I've been working on putting together and making them myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I recently got a bunch of new beads. So one really cool one is I got octopuses that I can only sell 3 pairs, so you better come very quickly to the Mountain View Farmers Market.
Limited edition.
Yes. And so they're kind of big, but they look really pretty. And so I got some sea life beads, so I have this one right here.
With some shells and some blue and some pearly looking beads. That's beautiful.
Yeah, those the pearlies, they kind of look like actual pearls.
They really do.
From clams.
So people are going to really have to check out your booth at the Mountain View Farmers Market this year so they can see some of your new offerings. And so Kate, you're a student at Clark Middle School, and I know that the students, it's been about a week now, but you just had spring break kind of recently, and I asked you what you did for spring break, and you said not much. But now I'm looking at all these earrings that you've made, so I'm thinking maybe you did do a little bit over spring break.
I did.
So tell me about, well, first of all, what do other kids at Clark Middle School do over spring break? What did your friends do?
Probably just sit and watch TV.
Really? So do we need more things to do in the neighborhood over spring break?
Yeah.
Maybe it sounds like maybe we need some earring making classes or something for kids to do. Hey, that might be something for next year, right? Because
Maybe.
I know there's stuff happening at the library, so maybe other people want to know how to make earrings as well.
Yeah.
How much preparation goes into getting your business ready for this summer farmers market? Because I know every week you've been in here, you've had
New things.
right. You brought lemonade in, and now you have earrings and.
Well, the lemonade part was so I can get ready for lemonade day and selling my lemonade. And earring making, I'm doing it for fun. But I can also sell it, so I can't wear this many pairs of earrings.
Well,
But
not all at once, but maybe cycle in and out of them a little bit.
yeah, my prices range from $5 to $7. The octopus earrings are probably going to go for 10.
Wow, that seems very affordable for a product like this. Now, you mentioned Lemonade Day, and I know we talked about it a little bit last week, but I
Yeah.
think we might have had a little bit of our information wrong.
Yeah, I think
about-
it's in June.
Right, because we thought it was in August, and so we told people
But I
we'd
think-
come back and give them more information.
I think my phone was wrong.
Yeah, and I got an email about registration being open, so I thought, oh, whoa, we better come back and tell people about this.
My mom already registered me.
Perfect. So I know where I will be getting my lemonade on this Lemonade Day.
We
And
still got to find where, though.
that's true. I do need to find out where your stand will be. But it says here that Lemonade Day in Alaska is actually on,
June 9th.
right, June 9th, 2018. So this is a program for anyone who doesn't know. Lemonade Day is it's a nationwide program that teaches kids about entrepreneurship, but it's not just kids because like businesses and adult
Yeah.
mentors get involved as well. And it's really an opportunity to
Just work out with your entrepreneurships.
right to develop those skills, and so that kids can start their businesses young, like you've talked about in
Yeah.
the past, and by the time you're out of high school you have this full-fledged lemonade empire. Who knows what will happen. So and it's very fun because I know we have a few stands in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
and that I think yours was at maybe the Mountain View Library last year.
No,
Or
that
that was 2 years ago.
Mine was down in the Mountain View Street Fair.
Oh, okay, at the
We
Mountain.
were selling cupcakes, and then we realized that Ava's Cupcakes was supposed to be there, but they weren't. We were like, thank God, because we love everybody in the neighborhood, and we don't want to.
Yeah, none of that like cutthroat cupcake competition.
Yeah.
You wanted to work together a little bit.
Yeah.
And I know in the past, though, you've talked about maybe you yourself will be working at Ava's one day.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Well,
I
at
like
the rate you're
making
going,
cupcakes.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
So, again, mark your calendar. That's Lemonade Day Alaska. That's June 9th, 2018. And if you're interested or you want to find more information, or perhaps you yourself are a lemonade tycoon and want to sign up, that website is lemonadeday.org.
And if you would like to get my lemonade, when we find out where it will be, I will tell you.
Yes, we will definitely talk about that on the show as soon as we find out. And of course, you can always go to our website and our blog, our Mountain View blog. It's all about Mountain View, and we try and list as many like local events as we can, and also cover things like that.
Yeah.
And the website is mountainviewpost.com. That's mtviewpost.com. And Kate, we also have a magazine, right? And
Yeah.
right. And the third issue is coming out here in April, at the end of April. We have a lot of cool things in the works for it. I know Kate herself is working on a pretty neat photo project.
Yeah.
I don't want to spill the beans too much. You're going to have to pick up the print issue when it comes out. But you can find all the information about that, and of course about this show, as well as archived past shows and information about
On
local
YouTube.
businesses. Exactly. And that's all on our website. Again, mountainviewpost.com.
So if you missed last times, or the time before, or the time before that, just go on YouTube.
And they were pretty good shows, I'm going to tell you. So yeah, I would recommend. And we have them all linked on the website. So check us out, mountainviewpost.com. And thank you for tuning in. I think we're right at the end of our hour. And Kate, did we miss anything with this week's show?
No, you got everything. And
what I like to hear.
more.
Thank you for tuning in. Join us next week for the Mountain View Post Radio Hour.